Alright, and welcome back. My predictions were terrible. They were not good at all from the last video. The Regional 3 for North America has finished, and that means that North America is done for the winter split until the major with international teams. If we go down here, we see that there's some weird stuff happening. Version 1 is at a boot camp in their facility, which I did not know, and I did not expect them to do as well as they did because of that. Version 1 ends up going 9-0 total, perfect on the group stage, beating NRG. FaZe Clan ends up going 3-0 and moves on. Shopify and All Mid both get eliminated. In Group C and Group D, we got G2 going 9-0 as well. And Complexity coming out on top, going 9-1, with Charlotte Phoenix and Xset getting eliminated. So version 1 goes 9-0 total on the day. Shopify gets eliminated. Randoms come out and beat Energy 3-1, which was a big surprise. No one expected that. Energy does have their slow starts, but they usually end up winning the series anyway, which is weird. V1 and their boot camping, they did not choke at all. They go 9-0, completely sweep everyone. NRG does what they do and beats Shopify correctly, as it should be. V1 wins 3-0, nothing new there. Energy gets swept by V1, which was very surprising. Energy only scored 1 goal per game, and version 1 is just dominant. Shopify wins in Game 5 against Randoms, which leads to a tiebreaker match of Energy and Shopify Rebellion. There's no way Shopify wins that, and Energy makes it for the 3rd seed, surprisingly, while Shopify gets eliminated. In Group B, FaZe Clan struggles this time. They still go 3-0, but they still struggle. They sweep All Mid. Envy comes out. They're getting better with Drees. The more time they have with Drees, the better they're getting, which is not good for as a fan of a top team. You'd like seeing Envy not being the machine anymore, as T-Bates called them. But now that they're coming back, it's not as fun. FaZe takes Rogue to Game 5, or rather Rogue takes FaZe to Game 5. FaZe ends up winning, closer than it should have been, but FaZe does just enough to win. Envy takes All Mid to Game 5, or again, All Mid takes Envy to Game 5, and Envy wins, probably closer than it should have been. Envy takes FaZe to Game 5 with 3 overtimes. All short overtimes, less than 30 seconds long. FaZe comes out on top 3-2 in that, and Rogue sweeps All Mid. For Group C, G2 goes perfect 9-0, beating Charlotte Phoenix, Sonics, and Oxygen. Sonics decide that they're going to show up, and they end up taking Oxygen to 5 and winning that, which was not expected. Oxygen hasn't scored a goal in the last 2 games. And Game 5 was in a minute overtime at 1-0. G2 sweeps the Sonics, and Oxygen barely wins against Charlotte Phoenix in Game 5, a 3-minute overtime, 1-goal game, 1-0. Oxygen, Charlotte Phoenix go 5 games. Oxygen looked a little rough in the group stage, as they go 3 minutes into a Game 5 overtime with Charlotte Phoenix at a 1-0 game. G2 sweeps Oxygen, as Oxygen does not look that good, and Sonics beat Charlotte Phoenix. In Group D, Complexity decides that they are going to grind and play the game, and they're looking good again, which, just like Envy, is not fun to see if you're a fan of a top team. Space Station, needing to get top of the group to clinch a major spot, does not get top group, and they lose to Complexity 3-1 in round 3. Torrent and Xset are the weak links of the group, as they win a combined 6 games, and Torrent shows up when it matters against Xset in round 3 to eliminate Xset and for them to continue to the playoff bracket. In the playoff bracket, NRG gets to play Envy for round 1. Envy's looking better, but no match for NRG as NRG wins 3-1. And Torrent shows up 3-1 against Sonics, who was a very strong Sonics team. So it's very cool to see Torrent come back again, back into the regionals and do well. Hopefully they can repeat it again. Randoms comes out and sweeps Rogue 3-0. Not sure what went on with Rogue, but they're eliminated from major contention from that one alone. Now, SSG and Oxygen, which was a very interesting game. Space Station needed to win to secure a major spot. Oxygen needs to win to secure a major spot. And this is the second split in a row where Space Station chokes, and their destiny lies in other teams' hands, as they lose in Game 5 against Oxygen in lower bracket round 1. In lower bracket round 2, Torrent puts up an amazing fight against NRG. Probably should have won that, but they were not able to close out the series, as they lose 3-2. Randoms versus Oxygen. Oxygen is just the better team and sweeps them 3-0 as well. In the upper bracket semifinals, we have V1 and Complexity. Complexity looks strong at the gate, winning the first two. V1 calls a timeout at their boot camp. They win the next game. They take Complexity overtime for 23 seconds, where Complexity wins the game 4. And then version 1 just comes out and dominates the rest of the series. V1 wins 2-1, 1-0, and 3-1, and ends up winning the series overall 4-3. Complexity needed to win to secure, or to have a shot at getting the major, but that was just not going to happen. Version 1 increases their odds of going to the major with that win, as it's almost fairly certain now that they would make it, as they have to finish 2 spots above Oxygen, and Oxygen is in the lower bracket. For the second upper bracket semifinal, we have G2 and FaZe. G2 just dominates 4-1. It was not that close of a series. FaZe just scores 5 goals in one game, but that was about it, as they score 4 in the other 4 games rather. FaZe has a hard time beating G2. I don't think they have beat G2 yet this split, and they haven't beaten NRG this split either. FaZe is probably a top 3, top 5 team, but still can't beat the top 2 teams, which is very odd for a top team. FaZe moves down to play Oxygen, and Complexity moves down to play NRG. And Complexity just runs into a strong NRG, just making the lower bracket run. NRG loses the first game 4-2, but then wins 5-1, 3-1, 3-1, and 3-1. Complexity is officially out of major contention at this point. For the other lower bracket quarterfinal, we have FaZe and Oxygen. FaZe was just the better team, and it showed. Oxygen couldn't do anything. They did not win a single game. They get swept 4-0. V1 and Space Station fans were rooting for FaZe this series because as Oxygen got farther along, the more likely they would make the major, and the less likely the other 2 teams would make it, or one of the other 2 teams would make it rather. Oxygen needed a top 3 finish to secure a major spot, but they were not able to with this loss to FaZe as their top 6. In the lower bracket semifinals, we have NRG and FaZe. This goes back and forth the entire time, with NRG and FaZe winning every other game. Every game was a 1-goal game except for game 3 at a 4-2 finish. And FaZe continues to struggle against the top 2 teams. This could have gone FaZe's way, but after the last time they played, where FaZe got reverse swept in a best of 7, they just have not been able to close out a series against these top teams. And it continues, and this would make FaZe eliminated from this regional, but they secure the 3rd spot. And with this win, NRG also secures the top spot for the North America teams. This takes us to the upper bracket finals. V1 and G2 play, and V1 continues to show that boot camping is successful. They beat G2 4-2. And it really wasn't that close. V1 looked like the better team, and G2 didn't look like the best team out there. The fire alarm went off at the V1 headquarters, and that took a major delay out of the series. It didn't stop them as they played through it, and some unnecessary timeouts happened. And they still ended up winning the series. And V1 make it to the Grand Finals, which is the first Grand Finals that V1 has ever been into. G2 drops down to the lower bracket final, and the trend continues. The team that loses in the upper bracket final tends to lose in the lower bracket final. G2 was not looking good. NRG was not looking the best. Overall, it was a close series. It went only 5 games with NRG winning 4-1. But every game was a 1-goal lead except for game 4 where G2 wins 4-0. And this could have gone either way. It's a lot closer than it looks. G2 could have easily won this. They could have won 4-0. And NRG could have won 4-0. And it could have gone to game 7. And either team could have won. It was actually a pretty good series. And it was very close. So in the grand finals, we got version 1 at boot camp and versus NRG, making the lower bracket run all the way. And version 1 just has NRG's number. There's 2 1-goal games, 1-0 and 1-0 going in favor of V1 and 1 going in favor of NRG. But other than that, it was 3-1 in game 1, 4-2 in game 2, and 5-1 in game 5. And NRG just could not do anything about this team. Version 1 with Calm is being super aggressive and demoing and bumping, but not to the extent that Space Station does it, which is probably why they were successful. Not over demoing and over committing to things is one thing that made them successful. The team plays, the chemistry of the team was amazing, and it caught NRG off guard a lot of the times. With that, version 1 win their first major, or their first regional, and they secured the 4th seed in North America. With the end of that regional, we have our top 5 teams for North America for the split, with NRG with over 1,000 points, including the winter major, which I don't like when they do that, because those haven't happened yet, but still, anyway. G2 at 2nd with 921, FaZe Clan 3rd at 860, version 1 beating out Oxygen and Space Station at 801 with that win, and Space Station 5th with 750. We now have 10 of the 16 teams that are going to be at the Winter Major later in later in March. For North America, we have NRG, G2, FaZe, V1, and Space Station. For Europe, we have Team Queso and Team BDS, with the other 3 teams going to be joining them after the regional that happens this weekend. I will have a video out for predictions on that too. From OCE, we have Renegades and Pioneers. South American teams will also be decided this weekend. The APAC, or the Asian Pacific team, will be decided later after qualifiers happen. And Sandrock Gaming comes from Middle East. And that concludes the video. Thank you for watching. Be on the lookout for a couple more videos coming in the weeks ahead, and I'll see you later.